Welcome to Book Talk with Hawk. This week we're reviewing Christine Hassler's Expectation Hangover. It's a big one. It's a book where we dive into freeing yourself from your past, changing your present, and getting what you really want. But more than that, it is a deep dive into transformation through an uncovering of how much expectations are taking us down, like really messing with our joy and peace and happiness. And so as she lays the book out, I love actually how she's um, created the adventure, let's call it. So part one, she really talks about expectations. Like, what are they? We've kind of been taught that having expectations is a positive, powerful thing. And yet she helps us understand the what's and the whys, and also how it actually is creating this negativity in having a hangover. Because I don't know about you, but I actually don't think having hangovers is a good feeling. And so understand that she's helping us understand having a deeper awareness and acceptance of how things happen in our lives so that we don't get stuck in that hangover place. Then she walks through the treatment plan of understanding the importance of alignment in our emotional level, our mental level, our behavioral level, and our spiritual level to create a really holistic approach to how we navigate life. And then part three is prevention. So now she gets into giving us the secret sauce for pursuing our goals in a much more positive, co-creative, conscious, beautiful way, and gives us some quick fixes that work, which we're going to dive into a little bit too. So, as always, I've created a summary of the book, and you'll be able to grab this below if that's the way that you choose to take on your own seeking and learning. There'll also be a link for the book if you would prefer that this be one on your bookshelf. I know for me, this is going to be a lifelong one on my bookshelf. I've had it sitting beside me for a few weeks right now. I don't normally do that, but there was just so much growth and transformation for me that came through this experience and adventure with Christine that I just kept it there to keep reminding me and planting the seeds and helping me just dive a little bit deeper into creating it at a conscious level versus just reading it. And that's part of our experience together here is you can read a book and it can go on your shelf, and maybe for a moment you've had some inspiration, but we want to create more than that. We want to truly be seeking the transformations, the actions, the inspired actions that we can take from what these amazing books are giving us. So that's what Book Talk is all about. So now let me dive in a little bit deeper through the summary. So this book is really helping us to navigate disappointment in our lives, because for the most part, disappointment comes from us having hangovers from things not working, not happening the way that we expect them to happen. We've been taught to set expectations for everything. I think this is a little bit by accident, but when I first met my husband, he would always ask me, well, what do you expect of this trip we're taking? Or what do you expect of the weekend where we're hanging out with people? Or what do you expect from this business event you're going to? And my answer would always be the same. I don't really have expectations. And the reason is that I want to let things unfold on purpose, like intentionally the way that they're meant to. And if I apply expectations, it can't flow that way. After I read this book, I thought, okay, I didn't really design it that way. I believe, if I'm truly authentic about that, it came from a place of being disappointed when I set expectations, which taught me to have a new way of dealing with it, which is don't set expectations and let it flow. After the book, I could now recognize how I can leverage that in its truest, deepest sort of soul type of knowing versus accidental just so I protect myself from getting hurt. There's a difference. And I really realized that and saw where I was using it beautifully, and also saw where maybe it wasn't necessarily coming from here, it was coming from my thought process instead. So as we cling to these expectations, we're always waiting for something to happen. We're always waiting for something to happen. And when we do that, we're giving our power away, because things aren't typically going to happen exactly the way that our expectations have us set up for. When we start to identify and release that truth, then we truly can flow in a state of acceptance and allowance. Attachment versus allowance. Just even think of the energy with those words: attachment to a certain outcome versus allowance of the outcome. You will have a different visceral experience depending on which one of those states you live in. The reality is that we have become so trained in right and wrong and good and bad that we're always measuring things through that lens. And through that lens, we experience judgment, resistance, disappointment constantly. That is not a beautiful state of living. That is not a beautiful state of being. So how can you start to understand that the expectations are creating all these sort of limiting beliefs and interpretations and interruptions into a flow and a surrender that can bring you closer to the things that you truly do desire in life? Because when you can step into that acceptance piece, it means you let go of judgment, not just yourself, not just a situation, of others, of everything. And from that place, it's a beautiful lens to experience life through. Let me share a couple of quotes from the book. When you were born, you knew these truths. You are whole and complete. There is absolutely nothing wrong with you. You are worthy and deserving. You can trust the universe. You have a deep inner knowing. You are connected. All there is and all that matters is love. You are love. That truth, that knowingness that you are whole and complete, leaves us pretty early, because we step instead into all these expectations that others put on us, that social media puts on us, that we put on ourselves from all of our surroundings and all of our experiences. The reality is you are love, and you are here for one purpose, and that purpose is to stand in your own truth and your own beingness, which is a state of love. And that's our ultimate goal. When in the grip of fear, we experience disconnection and a sense of emptiness. The voice of others becomes louder than our inner voice and spirit. We feel alone and separate. Our expectations then become our compass. So instead of the compass being the fact that you are whole and complete, the compass becomes the expectations that you apply to things. And that is a state that is very difficult to grow and experience beauty from. So what are the lessons that the hangovers teach us? Well, they teach us that control is an illusion. What we do have is total control over how we respond. So instead of believing we have control of the outcomes, the understanding we could step into is that we have control of how we respond. That is not always easy, I'm telling you. I know you're saying right now, oh, but how? Yeah, and that's our journey, is to figure that out. It teaches us that our comfort zone is a trap. So often we're striving for comfort versus growth, comfort versus truth, comfort versus awareness. It's a trap. And the more that we know that, the more that we can lean into some of this uncomfortable state of expectations not being within our control. It isn't out there. Fulfillment is not something we make happen. It's not external. It's an inner knowingness versus an external expectation that we're seeking. You are not being punished, not in any way, shape, or form. Life is happening for you. Even the yucky stuff, it's happening for you. I had a beautiful experience a few years ago. My father became quite ill, and we actually thought we were going to lose him. And he struggled with some massive health challenges that were not by any means an overnight fix. He spent months in the hospital in rehab, and he had to learn to talk again, to walk again, to write his name again, to tell time again, to be able to feed himself again. Ultimately, over the course of a year and a bit, he had to learn to drive again. He learned to hit a golf ball again. He is a miracle. There is no doubt that the whole experience was miraculous. And the one huge lesson and noticing that I took away from that is not once did I hear him say, "Why me?"